Good day, listeners. You're tuned in to Royal Heritage Radio, your trusted source for all the latest insights, drama, and breaking updates from inside the palace walls. Now, let's dive into today's developing story, another nanny nightmare. For Meghan Markle and Prince Harry. It's been revealed that the couple, who have already cycled through multiple nannies in the past, are once again on the hunt for a replacement. Their long-standing nanny, who has been with them for years, is now said to be stepping away, wanting a bigger role and perhaps a promotion into a house manager position. This, of course, isn't the first time. Cast your mind back to June 2019, when headlines broke that Meghan and Harry had gone through 3 nannies in just 6 weeks. Reports at the time suggested that working for the Sussexes was, shall we say, no easy task. And now, we're learning more from royal insiders. According to YouTuber Kinsey Schofield, the family's trusted nanny of 5 years has been trying to transition into a new role for quite some time, but delays, management hurdles, and Meghan's reputation have made that shift a challenge. Here's how the process reportedly works. Once a new candidate is found, they must go through not 1, not 2, but 3 rounds of interviews, including meetings with Meghan's assistants, signing NDAs, and then finally meeting Harry and Meghan themselves. Agencies have even whispered to applicants beforehand, warning them who they're about to meet, just to ensure they're comfortable with Meghan's reputation before stepping into the room. So, with their nanny now looking to move on, the Sussexes once again face the question, who will step in next? We'll have more on this unfolding drama with royal biographer Angela Levin coming up in just a moment. Stay with us. This is Royal Heritage Radio. Now let's talk about what's happening with Harry and Meghan's search for yet another nanny. Here's the story. When a nanny candidate goes to meet the Sussexes, she actually has to pretend she doesn't know who they are. That's because agencies have been instructed not to reveal it's Harry and Meghan until the very last moment. Imagine that. Walking into an interview and having to act surprised. So why the trouble? Well, as our royal commentator Angela Levin explains, finding a nanny is never easy. Meghan, in particular, had very specific requests. She wanted someone who could get the children to sleep soundly at night. But of course, that means the nanny is up all night and not much help during the day. It's also worth noting, Meghan hasn't exactly been without support. She's had up to 3 nannies plus her mother, Doria, who has helped enormously with the children for years. But, according to insiders, even Doria has now stepped back, fed up with Meghan's constant complaints and unwilling to carry on. This leaves Harry and Meghan scrambling. After all, when you're out and about with young children, you need someone reliable. The children aren't babies anymore, but they still need attention, playtime, and consistency. And here's another issue. In many households, children can sometimes form stronger bonds with their nannies than with their parents, simply because they spend so much time together. That can spark jealousy, especially for mothers who fear losing that emotional connection. With Meghan, sources suggest she doesn't want to feel tied down, nor does she want someone overshadowing her role as mother. Yet at the same time, she still expects the nanny to do the bulk of the work. A very difficult balance. What's more, when Meghan and Harry interview nannies, they reportedly never reveal too much up front, sometimes not even the children's names or personalities, out. A fear that gossip could leak before the nanny is even hired. And let's be honest, in a world obsessed with royal details, that concern might not be entirely unfounded. So here we are again. Another nanny gone, more questions about what it's really like to work for the Sussexes, and the ongoing challenge of finding the perfect fit for their family. Stay tuned, because in just a moment we'll hear more insights from royal biographer Angela Levin on why this nanny drama just keeps repeating itself. You're listening to Royal Heritage Radio. Comedian Jimmy Carr, one of the UK's most established comics, someone who has performed for the late Queen and been a staple at royal events, has taken a surprising turn. Until now, most British comedians have joked about Prince Harry, but haven't really gone after him too harshly. Well, that seems to have changed this week. Well, it didn't make me laugh. I tried not to, but honestly, it just isn't a very nice thing to say. I don't think being rude about the royal family in that way is fair. They already get so much criticism, despite how hard they try, and I think it's a shame when nastiness is poured over them for the sake of a joke. And of course, the Nazi uniform incident has been dragged up time and again. Harry himself has often blamed his brother and sister-in-law, claiming they encouraged him at the time. But it's a controversy that simply won't go away. Exactly. He seems unable to move past it. And while Harry now points fingers at others, I don't think William or Catherine would have ever thought that was fun. Still, the issue follows. Him everywhere. Personally, I've never been fond of Harry's tone of humor. It often comes across as unkind rather than witty. I don't say that as someone prudish, but because it feels unnecessarily nasty. Strong words from Harry's own biographer, Angela Levin, on Jimmy Carr's royal joke and why Harry's past mistakes still haunt him today. According to a new report from Radar Online, Meghan's once glittering circle of A-list celebrity friends appears to be shrinking fast. Insiders say her pursuit of a glamorous Hollywood lifestyle has been slipping away, and some of her most high-profile relationships, like her formerly close connection with Oprah Winfrey, have now gone silent, and the timing is telling. On Meghan's recent birthday, only her most loyal inner circle shared public tributes. Big names in Hollywood? Largely absent. Angela Levin, royal biographer. What do you make of this sudden coolness from Meghan's celebrity friends? Well, I think it's quite right, really. At first, a lot of people believed Meghan and Harry's claims about being badly treated by the royal family. But as time went on, many realized that much of it wasn't true, and in fact, quite unpleasant lies. Once that became clear, many celebrities decided to quietly distance themselves. Remember, some of these stars were invited to Meghan's wedding instead of her own family. At the time, it was exciting. A royal wedding is a huge social event. But now, they've seen her behavior, the constant criticism of the royal family, of William and Catherine, and they don't want to be associated with that negativity. There are plenty of other people in Hollywood they can align with. And Angela, you've observed Meghan in those elite social settings. How does she fit in with the so-called Hollywood elite? Not very comfortably, actually, when she's around very high-status people. Not necessarily rich, but people of real influence. She seems uneasy. She doesn't know how to position herself, how to behave. Often she'll cling to Harry, pull him this way or that, and comes across as awkward. I don't entirely blame her for that. It's difficult to navigate those circles, but it does make her seem out of place. So, Meghan's star power in Hollywood may be dimming, her friendships with major celebrities cooling, and her critics say it's due to her ongoing attacks on the royal family. For Meghan and Harry, that raises the question, if the Hollywood elite aren't embracing them, where do they turn next? One striking example was that famous balcony moment. Meghan tried to turn around and chat with Harry, but he cut her off sharply, saying, "Turn around, don't do that now." She tried, again more than once, and Harry grew visibly irritated. Back and forth, Meghan simply didn't know how to handle herself. And of course, on that balcony with senior royals, the rule is clear. You look forward, you stand still. You don't start casual conversations. Meghan, it seems, didn't yet have the training or experience to know that. Exactly. It showed she lacked the manners or understanding of royal protocol. It wasn't malicious, but it highlighted just how out of place she could feel in those situations. And yet this week, Meghan did have a defender, writer Bryony Gordon. Now, Bryony is known more for her confessional columns about weight struggles, addiction, and excess than royal analysis. But she suddenly reappeared as Meghan's self-proclaimed best friend, painting Meghan as a victim of cruelty by the royals. Her column insisted Meghan doesn't deserve to be called too difficult, and went as far as to shame the royal family for their treatment of her. Yes, Bryony Gordon has long been one of Meghan's loudest supporters in the press. But this idea that Meghan is being treated worse than, say, Prince Andrew is simply absurd. The two situations aren't comparable. Andrew has indeed embarrassed the royal family in serious ways, but Meghan was an outsider who, from the beginning, seemed intent on challenging, and some might say dismantling, the institution of the monarchy itself. That's a very different story. Angela, you've suggested from the start that Meghan arrived in the royal family not to support it, but to undermine it. And you say the late Queen Elizabeth herself noticed this very early on? Yes, absolutely. The Queen could sense it almost. Straight away, and she found it very upsetting. William saw it too, which is why he warned Harry to slow down and be careful. But of course, Harry didn't listen, and it caused a rift between the brothers. And you yourself had direct experience with Harry, didn't you? I did. I interviewed Harry at length about his mental health, and I was very pleased to have the opportunity. We spoke deeply, and I thought it would make an important contribution to my work. But then, not long after, Meghan entered the picture. She used Bryony Gordon in the press to get her version of events out quickly. And that was frustrating because while I was working on a book, which takes months to publish, Bryony could print something within days. Suddenly, Meghan had her own sympathetic mouthpiece. Interesting. And yet Bryony insists her relationship with Meghan is personal, not just professional. She's written glowing pieces about lunches with Meghan, working on charity projects, together even visiting Frogmore Cottage and Montecito for what she calls friendly visits, though of course they were really interviews. Exactly. She presents herself as Meghan's loving friend, but in reality these were journalistic exchanges used to give Meghan favorable coverage. It's a very blurred line, and while Bryony gushes about Meghan, it doesn't change the reality of Meghan's behavior or the impact she's had on the royal family. So to some, Bryony Gordon is Meghan's most loyal defender. To others, she's simply a useful ally Meghan turned to for sympathetic coverage. Either way, Meghan's reputation inside Britain and abroad remains one of the most divisive in modern royal history. Now, one of the arguments Meghan's supporters often make is that she's been unfairly vilified, while other members of the royal family are given a so-called free pass. But Angela, is that really true? I mean, Prince Andrew hasn't exactly been let off lightly. He's lost everything. Yes, he has. He's lost his public role, his reputation, and it's deeply upsetting for his children. He looks like a man who has been completely diminished. But the truth is, Andrew still doesn't fully accept the gravity of what he's done. That's what makes his situation different. He's paid a huge price, but he doesn't seem to understand why. And yet Meghan's defenders continue to argue she's treated worse than Andrew. Meanwhile, one of her most vocal champions in the press, Bryony Gordon, has been writing sympathetic pieces about her again. Angela, you find that puzzling, don't you? I do. Meghan absolutely despises the Daily Mail, and yet she's very happy to work with Bryony Gordon when it suits her. To me, it's obvious. She sees it as a way to get her message out in a paper she normally claims to hate. It's calculated, it's cunning, but I don't buy it. And of course, Bryony Gordon herself was brought into the Daily Mail from the Telegraph precisely because of her close relationship with Harry and Meghan. Some have even called her the horse whisperer between Montecito and the British tabloids. It's bizarre, really. The same paper Harry has spent years trying to take down is now printing what many describe as pro-Meghan propaganda pieces, hoping perhaps to calm the waters. But Angela, you're saying that's a losing game? Yes. The Mail already has excellent royal correspondents who cover the family fairly and thoroughly. Allowing these glowing, one-sided articles from Bryony doesn't make sense. It feels naive. And I don't think it will change Harry or Meghan's attitude toward the press one bit. So while Meghan's defenders in the media still exist, even they're raising eyebrows, caught between her hostility toward the press and her willingness to use it when it benefits her. The contradictions, it seems, never stop. Now another story shaking the royal world, this time involving Prince Andrew and a controversial new biography by historian Andrew Loney. The book has deeply divided royal followers, and the debate reached boiling point when Jacob Rees-Mogg decided to confront the author live on his GB News program, State of the Nation. What unfolded was extraordinary television. Two very proper English gentlemen, both polished, both posh, going head-to-head in a verbal boxing match. Let's start right at the beginning. You write about an alleged affair between Prince Philip and Susan Barantes. What evidence do you actually have for that? My mother-in-law, who was a close friend of hers. But that's gossip, isn't it? You're relying on hearsay. And later in the book, you even suggest another alleged mistress of Prince Philip. Again, what evidence? That was previously reported in the press. And my book is not gossip. It contains 30 pages of footnotes drawn from multiple interviews and sources. But Jacob Rees-Mogg wasn't satisfied. He waved away those footnotes, dismissing them as little more than newspaper clippings. He accused Loney of simply stitching together gossip columns into what he called a gossipy book. I went through your footnotes, Mr. Loney, and again you're quoting newspapers. It's not original research. That's not true. Look at the acknowledgements page. You'll see dozens of interviews, hours of conversations with people close to the royals. Yes, I've cited newspapers, but that's standard in any serious biography. And that's when the clash grew heated. Rees-Mogg refused to back down, insisting the book was little more than a royal hatchet job. Loney, meanwhile, accused him of being unfair, arguing that no biography can exist without drawing on previously reported material. It was really uncomfortable to watch. It felt less like an interview and more like an ambush. And the irony, of course, is that Rees-Mogg may have ended up giving the book even more publicity by attacking it so fiercely on live television. So what was meant as a takedown may have backfired. Andrew Loney's book on Prince Andrew is now one of the most talked about royal titles of the year, thanks in no small part to Jacob Rees-Mogg's fiery cross-examination. The clash didn't stop there. Things grew even more heated when Jacob Rees-Mogg pressed Andrew Loney on his sources and whether his book was truly credible. Mr. Loney, your acknowledgements page lists. Let's see. Daily Mail, Daily Mail, Daily Mail, Daily Mail, New York Times. Yes, you have some interviews, but at the start, you claim you approached 3,000 people, and only 300 agreed to speak. That's hardly many, is it? I think you'll find that's actually very strong for a royal biography. 300 on-the-record interviews is a huge number compared to most books in this field. And that's a fair point. What Rees-Mogg presented as a gotcha moment actually made Loney's case look stronger. After all, 300 named sources is no small achievement. Let's take some of your stories. An ambassador's wife was upset because the prince criticized her interior decor. Another chased him down after he left without saying thank you. Are diplomats really such delicate flowers? Or are you simply stuffing your book with petty anecdotes? They're not petty, and they're not anonymous. Many are named. Others preferred to go off the record, which is completely normal in sensitive interviews. I can't force people into the spotlight, but these were genuine stories from my research. Well, not mainly anonymous, you say? Then let's talk about this. How much does a side of beef weigh? Because your book suggests Sarah Ferguson had 200 weight of beef on her sideboard every night. Yes, that figure does sound slightly off, but you're cherry-picking one detail out of hundreds. Reviews may criticize tone, but there are no factual errors in my book. Well, thank you very much, Andrew, for what I can only call a hatchet job on His Royal Highness. And with that, the interview ended, perhaps the poshest on-air spat in modern British television. Two gentlemen with plummy accents, but make no mistake, this was a duel, and it left viewers wondering who really won. So, the question on everyone's lips, who actually came out on top in that very posh on-air duel? I loved it. Truly. They couldn't stand each other, you could feel it. But Andrew's final remark, there were no errors in my book, people just didn't like it. Well, that was very superior, wasn't it? He's a tough man. You know, he once tried to get me to work with him, to do my literary editing. He gave me a long list of forms and requirements, and when I got home and read through them, I thought, absolutely not. Too rigid, not very nice. I thanked him and declined. And what happened? He shouted at me, told me I didn't know what I was missing, that he would make me rich, that he'd succeed. Well, he may well do, but I knew it wasn't right for me. So he's not the easiest colleague, then? No. But you have to give him credit. Speaking. To 300 people for a royal biography, that's huge. Incredibly difficult to achieve. Most authors would kill for that many sources. And that's the point, isn't it? Quantity matters, but sometimes just one source is enough. Look at Andrew Morton. He wrote what's arguably the most famous royal book of all time, and his single source was Princess Diana herself. That was all he needed. Exactly. One direct voice can be more powerful than 300 secondhand stories. So what about the book itself? Do you feel sympathy for Prince Andrew? Many say the York girls and Sarah Ferguson must be asking, how much more can we endure? Or does he deserve all of this scrutiny? No, I don't think he deserves everything that's been thrown at him. But I don't think he's a very pleasant person either. He's superior, convinced he still ranks high in the royal hierarchy. His mother adored him, yes, but I've heard and seen things that suggest a very nasty streak. I wouldn't want him as a friend, or even to sit down and chat with, but that's who he is. You see, with Prince Andrew, it feels as though he does whatever he wants, regardless of the consequences. He doesn't think about the reputation of the royal family. Some of the stories about him are shocking. I mean, he admitted he first had sex when he was just 11. Can you believe that? And apparently throughout his life he's had around 1,000 women. Yes, and at the time I actually reported on this. His close friends claimed he'd been with more than 1,000 lovers, though they insisted they weren't underage girls. But this new book suggests the number could be even higher. Honestly, it's staggering. I can't really respect a man who lives like that. You don't mean anything to him. It's just in and out, no meaning, no connection. That's not much fun, is it? And now at his age, mid-60s, he's 66, I think. He doesn't have the money, the energy, or even the charm to court women properly. No more taking them to dinner, no effort to win them over. He can't be bothered anymore. These days, he seems to prefer his horses. And yet you'd think at this stage of his life, especially after all the disgrace, he might look for a proper relationship, something more meaningful. It could help him, really. Find love, do some good for the world. Because Angela, he could still be around for another 3 decades. Yes, but don't forget, he's still obsessed with his teddy bears, hundreds of them. And if a maid dares to put them out of order, he completely loses his temper. It's bizarre. Clearly he craves love, he needs love, but finding it? That's another matter entirely. Oh my goodness. Well, speaking of strange habits, I just have to show you this picture of Andrew. One moment while I pull it up. Speaking of those teddy bears, Angela, remember that infamous Sun front page? The headline was, Andrew, 6 in a bed. And of course, it wasn't about women at all. It was him. And 5 stuffed toys. When the Duke stayed at Buckingham Palace, he reportedly demanded very specific companions. A teddy holding a heart, a teddy with a necklace, a cuddly black panther, a squishy gray hippo, and another hippo wrapped in a green blanket. Extraordinary, isn't it? But I suppose what we might say is this. Being the spare has never been an easy life. We've seen that with Prince Harry, and before him Princess Margaret. The difference, though, and this is where I push back against Bryony Gordon, is that Andrew, for all his scandals, never set out to bring down the monarchy. He may have disgraced himself, but he didn't attack the institution. Meghan Markle, on the other hand, that was very clearly her mission. Thank you very much for watching. Don't forget to click subscribe to Royal Heritage Radio, my face on the bottom left to subscribe, and turn on the bell so you don't miss the interview.